Kagurabachi Chapter 10. Y'all know the drill by now. If you're not caught up, check out the playlist on my page. Chapter 10 is titled Swift, and we pick up right where we left off with Chihiro bringing his katana down and saying Nishiki. The narrator then says, Nishiki is cloaking. It imbues every punch and every kick with high-density spirit energy. And after Chihiro does this, we see that he is just struggling, still singeing from the electricity that he took, and just not having a good time. Sojo just looks down on him and says, hey now, don't overdo it showing off your tricks. But he then thinks to himself, so, he really is still conscious. I wonder if I was leaking any energy while charging up that attack. I guess it's going to take me more than a week to master this thing. In any case, the recharge interval for Mei should almost be up. Sojo then looks back at Chihiro and says, to protect the weak, huh? That's why you were protecting that kid? What boring, altruistic garbage. We then cut to Char and Hinao who are walking down an alleyway, and Char is actually draped over Hinao's shoulders. So Char says, you know, if you're tired, we can switch. And Hinao says, for real? All right, we'll do that soon. We then cut back to Sojo who continues, altruism. Nothing could be more inappropriate to Rokuhira's weapons of mass destruction. And as soon as he says that, Chihiro crashes out. He just goes berserk and he screams, don't you dare talk about my father. And then he jets towards Sojo with a newfound speed, so fast that it catches Sojo off guard and he actually knocks Sojo's katana out of his hand, but Sojo is able to immediately re-grab it out of the air. Sojo thinks to himself that Chihiro is now fighting with a whole new level of power and speed, so in that case, I'll use this, and he says, Ketsu. We then see all of these different shards of ice basically just explode in clusters around him, serving as both an attack and a defense, and if you see this dark line darting through him, that's Chihiro. He is moving like lightning through this thing, and both of them are trying to get to one another. This comes to a head when the two of them think they finally found an opening on the other and make simultaneous strikes that get so close to each of their heads, but then both of them are able to duck underneath it and kind of reset. Sojo then looks back at Chihiro with a smile and says, so you dodged it, huh? Nice work. Meanwhile, Chihiro is looking like he just got hit by a bus. This man is struggling, and he thinks to himself, not only did Sojo just respond to my speed, but he also was able to get in a counterattack. I'm almost at my limit. I have to finish this. It's at this point that Chihiro notices a car turn and start to peel out down the street. And inside the car, he can see some henchman-looking dudes, but also one of Char's legs. It's just kind of sticking up so that he can only see the top of her foot. And Sojo looks that way as well and just says, oh, you idiots. And Chihiro starts freaking out. He thinks, Char, I dropped the ball. I was so focused on this enchanted blade, it never occurred to me that he might have help. The last thought that then crosses his mind is just how excited Char was when she found out that she was going to be able to stay with Chihiro, and then he darts off in a flash after the car. Sojo says, hey now, don't leave me behind, and he points his blade at Chihiro and says Mei, shooting a bolt of electricity after him. But we then see an unknown character chant Gansui, and the earth rises up to form a wall blocking the electricity. We then see these five guys descend upon Sojo, and he looks at him and says, the Kamunabi, but he thinks to himself, all right, there's five of them, and they're all members of the elite force. If it was just these guys, I'd fight, but, and he looks up to a nearby building where he can see two people on a roof. He says, those two are a problem. We then cut to Shiba and the Drip King himself, Azumi, standing on the roof. And Azumi says, stand by, everyone. Shiba looks at Azumi and says, okay, I'm gonna go join Chihiro then. But Azumi says, wait, if you move, he'll move. We then cut to Sojo, who thinks, in my current condition, taking on those two would be too much. Shiba then says, if you're gonna stop me from going, then at least let me fight here. But Azumi says, no, we're in the city and he's got an enchanted blade. We want to avoid a battle at all costs. They've already caused enough damage. And Shiba just says, oh, come on, you're always so uptight. And then he throws up his patented hand sign and starts to teleport. We then cut back to Sojo, who hoists up his blade and then slams it into the ground as he says Ko, and an explosion of clouds completely obscures him. We then cut to Chihiro, who is a man possessed. He is singularly focused on Char and catching up to this car. We then see him dive bomb through the window and decapitate 2 out of the 3 henchmen in one swoop. As he does this, he reaches for where he saw Char's leg when he realizes that all that's there is her leg. All of this happens in a second, and after Chihiro realizes that, he grabs the last remaining henchman, pulls him out of the car, and thrusts him on the ground, placing his sword at his neck, all before the car even has a chance to come to a crash. Chihiro says, "What have you done with Char?" And the henchman says, "Master Sojo's orders to confuse the enemy. He told us to chop her up and it worked. We fooled you." Chihiro pushes the blade closer and says, "The other girl, where is she?" And this dude just starts laughing as we cut to a shot of Hinao beaten and bloody laying down in an alleyway. We then cut back to these guys and this dude is still just laughing and Chihiro finishes the job, if you catch my drift. He then thinks to himself, "One thing is crystal clear. The man holding my father's sword is complete trash." Chihiro then succumbs to all of his injuries and fatigue and starts to just pass out, but that's when Shiba teleports in and catches our boy. And he says, "Hey now, hey now, hey now." And Chihiro says, "Mr. Shiba, where's Sojo?" And Shiba says, "He cast a ko and vanished." We then cut to a different car where we see Sojo piling in through the window. And in the back seat, we have Char and two henchmen. And the henchmen are saying, "Whoa, they really are growing back. That's wild." And the other one says, "Yeah, that really gives me the creeps." And they're referring to her legs, both of which have presumably been sliced off and are now growing back. Then as Sojo climbs in, one of them asks, "So, did you master that enchanted blade yet?" And he says, "No, in a real fight, this thing is another animal completely." He then looks down at his hand, which is just throbbing, and he's remembering the intensity of their fight. And he says, "I need to deepen my understanding." Then one of the henchmen in the back says, "Well, anyway, now that we have the material back, we can resume the plan." And Sojo says, "Yeah, to surpass Kunishige Rokuhira." The henchman then says, "So are you just going to forget about that new enchanted blade then?" And Sojo says, "Of course not." And he thinks back to finding out that Chihiro is Kunishige's son. And he says, "We need to talk." The chapter then ends with this panel of Chihiro who says, "I will cut him down." All right, y'all, another interesting chapter, and the plot continues to thicken. I'm very interested to find out more about these five blokes of the Kamunabi here. And based on what Sojo said, that these guys were all part of the elite force, that just has me curious about what the power structure of the Kamunabi is. You know, they're not all equal. Not that I thought they were, but, you know, Azami is way above them in strength, and Shiba was on that similar level, right? So I'm curious to see who like the top dogs of the Kamunabi are. Plus, you know, Sojo just seems to be built different here, saying that he could have taken on all five of these dudes if Azami and Shiba weren't there. Plus, you know, even with Chihiro going Super Saiyan, Sojo was still just, you know, having fun that entire time. So excited to see more from him, especially since he doesn't even really understand Cloud Gouger yet. Like, bro could be an absolute menace. And oh my gosh, this sequence was so cool. Somebody had mentioned to me that the way Kagurabachi showcases speed is top notch. And yes, this really is a great example of that. The way Chihiro just completely wrecked that car, went through it like a tsunami, and then still got this guy in position before the car even crashed. Like, incredible. And I know some of you guys only watch my videos, but you should go read this chapter to check out one of the panels I couldn't show just because it was far too violent. The one where he first breaks into the car, absolutely nasty. But also, screw these guys. They totally got what they deserved. I cannot believe they did that to Char. Like, how freaking sadistic. And then the last thing I wanted to comment on here is seemingly that Sojo wants to make even better enchanted blades. I don't know that that's what he's doing, but he said he wanted to surpass Kunishige, and they talked about stealing the materials back, which I'm guessing Char is the materials. Like, is she used to make enchanted blades? Like, things just got way more morally messed up in terms of what Chihiro's father was doing, if so, but we're going to have to wait and see. And then finally, I got to give a huge shout out to Jack, Corey, and Branwyn. Thank you guys so much for the support. And Jack, I was so hyped to find a fellow AGDQ lover out in the wild. The Games Done Quick weeks are some of my favorite weeks out of the year. I was enjoying that all last week as well. But thank you guys so much for the support and encouragement. And to all of you that have been along on this journey, it's been so great seeing everyone's enthusiasm and joy for this series. The Bocce Bros really are built different. And then as a last order of business, we are officially 10 chapters deep now, which is the point that I said I was going to reassess and see if the chapter by chapter format still made sense. So to just kind of like brain spill about where I'm at with this, like I just mentioned, the encouragement, the support from everybody that has been tuning in has been amazing. But unfortunately, that hasn't translated the best to actual viewership across the platforms, which I didn't really expect that much or anything. But even still, considering the time investment, I don't know if it's going to really make sense to try to do this for 60 plus chapters. But what I'm thinking is I will at least finish this first arc, which I think goes to like chapter 16 or 18. So we've got like six to more doing it this way. And then that way we will have a chronicle of the entire first arc. And then probably from there, would maybe just go to like doing arc videos for each one until we're caught up. And then we'd cover the new chapters basically the same way we're doing here and, you know, all the other new current Kagurabachi content. So that's my tentative plan for now. So we will keep it this way for a little bit. And, you know, maybe things just keep getting better and better. And then it's like, hey, let's just keep doing it this way. But at least for now, the tentative plan, finish this arc, then just do arc by arc after that. But let me know y'all's thoughts. I know a lot of you like these videos, but I also have had a lot of people saying like, hey, you should just do arc by arc. So we're going to keep kind of playing it by ear, seeing how things go. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Anyways, y'all, that's all for this one. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you soon.